Good day, grade 12. I am Mr. Macherman, and today we will focus on English first additional language. The last time we were together, we focused on the essay, so we're going to continue a bit more on the essay, and then later on we will focus on the longer transactional text. So for today, I want us to remember what I said last week, that paper 3 requires you to think. And it is important that you think. Your logic is very important. Now on the screen you will see over here that I say paper 3 requires, and obviously grade 12, thinking, and obviously thinking. And if you cannot think, something is wrong with you. You need to think. When we go to bed, what is the first thing you do? You think of something to fall asleep. Obviously, no one just falls asleep. Then you're an alien if you do. So let's focus today on how important this question paper is. I will just remind you again that 25% of this question paper counts towards that final mark. 25%, 100 marks grade 12. You cannot think to yourself, I'm just going to spend 2 of the 2.5 hours on this question paper. Spend your time wisely, right? So we note that essays are important. It counts 50 out of the 100 marks, right? So last week we focused on the narrative essay, reflective, discursive, argumentative, and descriptive. And I already told you last week that these 3 mainly become one essay. Because when I tell a story, I'm going to reflect, because my essay is always in the past tense. And when I write my story, I'm going to describe things. So if I describe things, obviously 3 elements into one essay. The important thing is what you write, logic. Hence me saying thinking is important. So essays require quite a few things from you to do. So it's important, grade 12, that you focus on what the essay requires of you to do. So when we look over here, the very first thing I said last week, you need to select a familiar topic, something you can relate to. The same thing counts for section B and section C, not just only for section A, which is your essay. Whether it is the text or the visual, it needs to be something you are familiar with. Do not attempt something you do not understand or cannot comprehend while you're sitting in that exam venue. Take something which is familiar to you, especially a topic which focuses on the narrative, reflective, descriptive essays. If you cannot attempt argumentative or discursive essays, I plead with you, do not attempt those, right? So when we look at the essay, I told you the last time, analyze the topic and then start the planning. It is important that when you analyze, like I told you in our previous session, you see something from that analysis that we do not see, especially the visual. So analyze the topic and look to yourself. When I look at the topic and I say, as I sit here, that's your topic, as I sit here. So what happens when you sit here? What do you see when you sit here? Those are the things you need to look at when you analyze the topic, and your analysis will lead you to your planning. So you focus on things such as your mind map or flow chart, whatever the case is, whatever you're going to utilize before you get to the rough draft. And in our previous session, I told you, a builder cannot build a house if the architect did not design it. It's impossible. So it's important that you ensure planning is in place for that essay. Start a rough draft, edit the rough draft, and continue onto your final draft. Start writing the rough draft immediately after your planning. Don't waste your time. Imagination is important. So if you are ready, then you know, starting the rough draft, I'm going to start with a striking introduction. I'm going to grab my readers, like we do with our speeches. I'm going to grab the listeners, I'm going to grab the audience, and immediately, that person, that marker, is going to want to continue reading that essay. Especially when it is an interesting story. Even if you place a horror in that essay, it is okay. We need to follow. But please don't scare off your teachers. Right, after you've done that, like I said, edit. Here when we edit, we look at things such as refining the essay, adding words, adding sentences, or removing things. And in that way, I refine the essay and I place a proper essay as my final product for the marker. So it's important that you focus on those elements. Very important. You will not understand how crucial this is for this final draft. If you focus on these steps, that final draft is going to be a perfect final draft. Obviously, focusing on what you are saying, number one, and how you are saying it. Your language is very important. Always remember formal language because you are writing a formal piece. When you look at the last bullet, I want us just to stop here. Focus on the words, stick to word count 250 to 300 words. Not 301, 312 or 550 and then we lie and say 300 words. 250 to 300 words. Yes, in our previous session I mentioned home language you write 400 to 450 words. So you feel that these words are too little. But it is the prerequisite of the department. We cannot go against it. The moment you decide to go over this word count, and the crux of your essay is after the 300th word, grade 12, you penalize yourself. Not your teacher, not the marker, but you penalize yourself. So it is upon yourself to ensure that you stick to the word count. When we write, pay special attention to my tense. Remember we said the tense is always in the past tense when we write a narrative essay. Remain your tense. Don't move over to the future tense. And obviously, you cannot write in the future tense. So you cannot even go into the present tense. Stick to the past tense. Refrain from using inappropriate language. I cannot emphasize this enough. Refrain from this. Stay away from using language and words that is not applicable to what you are writing. Refrain from writing text where you focus on mediocre things such as going to a party, meeting friends, meeting a boy or a girl, and you are having alcohol and it leads to sex later on. Refrain from this. That grade 12 is not original. We want to assess your work, your uniqueness, not work that we've already read before. Because that same storyline you are going to use is the same storyline that we see in movies. Use your imagination, right? Avoid long sentences. Punctuation is important. So automatically I need to know where am I placing my comma, my full stop. Where am I placing my exclamation mark? Where am I placing ellipsis? Because all of that is going to contribute to my actual essay. So it's important that these points you consider when writing that essay. Now, when we look at the structure of an essay, your educator has taught you since you started writing in grade 3 that an essay has an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. But what we find is in the body, one long paragraph. Yet, it requires paragraphs from you and not one paragraph. So when we look at the structure of the essay, these elements must be there. And when we look at the introduction, like I said earlier, it must be striking. It must grab me as the marker, as the person reading the story. I need to know what this essay is about. So introduce to me what it is about, grab me, and I'm going to continue reading. And when I continue reading, my body is going to focus on paragraphs. And these paragraphs focus on points that you are explaining, contributing to the introduction you gave me and to your topic. And at the same time, my paragraphs are going to flow. There's cohesion in every paragraph flowing from the one on to the next one. And when I conclude grade 12, it's a strong conclusion I'm leaving. A very strong conclusion that you are leaving. Because when you bring all of this and you end it off at the bottom, definitely your story is going to make sense. So please stick to the structure. you are awarded a mark out of 5 for the structure. So just imagine getting 5 out of 5. And when it comes to your content, getting 30 out of 30, you already have 35 out of 50. So please pay special attention to this. I have an example of an introduction for you on the topic as I sit here. Now you will notice that most of the topics I use are derived from past question papers. Practicing is important, and those are the resources you can use to practice. So when we look at this introduction, and remember what I said about striking, number 1, and secondly, the topic is as I sit here. So you need to give me something to work with. So let us look at this. It was a beautiful morning. The sun was showing off with its rays shining brighter than ever before. Grade 12, that already is a description. But it also tells me I'm going to find a story here. The birds were chirping and I was in the best mood ever. Once again, description. But I'm reflecting because I'm thinking back. It was, you see the tense? It was past tense. It was the day I have been waiting for so long. I believed that this day would change my life forever. Little did I know what was going to happen on this day. So here I've grabbed my reader by utilizing the elements of the reflective essay, the descriptive essay, because now I've painted a picture of what is actually happening on this day. And there is some expectation that's to come on this particular day. Now, I did not include a further example of the body. I want you to practice that on your own. What would you include in the body that would contribute to an introduction like this? So let's look quickly at a conclusion for this introduction. Now, as I sit here, you see, I took the topic and placed it within my essay. I wonder what went wrong and what I did to deserve this treatment. I am only but a teenager with high expectations of people and never thought that it would be those whom I love the most. Whom I love who will hurt me the most. For now, I will just have to accept what is, what was, and what could have been. Which means the expectation that was in my introduction, it's gone. Because I was disappointed. So feelings of being brought across from this part of my conclusion. I'm leaving it there that I was as happy, I was as excited for this particular day. But on this day, I was disappointed. On this day, it was the people who I love the most who disappointed me. And as I sit here, this is how I'm feeling right now. So it's important that you analyze the topic and plan that rough draft. It will give you a very exceptional essay. So it's important that you utilize these elements. And every time you write an essay, think of what would my teacher say? What would the marker think? Because it's important, grade 12, that you focus on those things. Hence me saying, stay away from inappropriate language. Stay away from inappropriate stories. Because ultimately, it is what you write. Use your imagination. Nothing else. Use your imagination. And please, grade 12, stay away from plagiarism. Do not plagiarize a story and make it your own. You are unique. Write a unique story. Think of a unique story before you enter that exam room. And all you do, you take that story and you link it to a topic. But please use your own work. Now we will focus on section B in the question paper, which is a transactional text. Now here, grade 12, it is important that when we look at the instructions, it tells you to respond to one of the following. Just like one essay, one in section B, one in section C. Not two in section 1 and then two in section B. Because it is important that you look at this, grade 12. If you are home language, you are going to attempt section A, 1 essay, section B, 2 transactional texts. But in English first additional language, you need to focus on the idea it's section A, 1 essay, section B, 1 text, and section C, 1 text. So let us look at the text today. You need to respond to one of the topics that is provided to you. The body of your response should be between 120 and 150 words. That's it. You cannot go over that, because it already gives you space to work in between the 120 and the 150. Stick to the word count. Very important that you do so. Write down the number and the heading that you have chosen. This example here tells you 2.1, which is the formal letter. It depends on the topic that you select. Pay particular attention to format, language, and register. Very important, especially when it comes to the register. Your topic is going to give you your format and your register. Spend approximately 40 minutes. 40 minutes is a long time, but 40 minutes I can use to analyze, plan, write a rough draft, and a final draft. But for section B, I need to know my format. And if I don't know my format, I cannot attempt that particular topic. So attempt something you know the format of. It further requires selecting one topic, like I said, with a familiar format. So if I know that the question paper has an informal letter and a formal letter, but I'm not comfortable with the format of the formal letter, I'm going to stick to the informal letter, right? The next part, once again, I cannot emphasize this enough, correct usage of the format. You need to practice your formats. And please, grade 12, don't tell yourself, I'm going to write a letter in the exam. What if there's no letter in the exam? What are you then going to choose? So you need to know all your formats for the exam. Address the topic or issue directly, and here analysis is once again important. Once you analyze a topic, I can address it. If you don't address it, then obviously your content mark is going to be extremely low. Focus on the part that tells you to analyze. Language usage is important. But you also need to note, to write section B and section C, you need to fart. And if you don't fart, then clearly there is a problem. Now you might be wondering why I would say you need to fart, and I'll tell you why. The F speaks of your format. So if I fart, I'm going to know my first letter in fart is my format. And then my audience. Automatically I need to take note of who my audience is, for who am I writing the speech for. If I'm writing the speech, is it formal? Is it informal? Where will the speech be said? Is it for a wedding anniversary, a baptism, or is it just an informal party at home? Right? So it's important that I note my audience. My register. So my register is going to give me my tone. So automatically I need to remember, I need to fart. So as funny as it sounds to you, and I'm honestly not in your exam venue with you, and if you at that moment really have a fart, just think to yourself, I farted now, so I need to fart in my question paper. Important, format, audience, register, and your tone. Remember to fart. So let's focus on the informal letter, right? We have the informal letter which we write to our friends, our aunts, our uncles, anybody with whom we have an informal relationship, whom we can write an informal letter to. We use the correct format, address the topic, answering the question, and do not once again use inappropriate language. But here you are allowed to use obviously slang and or colloquialism. So when we write the informal letter, we need to focus on the format. So let's look at the format for the informal letter. So automatically the first thing I need to have is the address. Whose address? Mine. Right? No one else's but my address. And after I noted that, I know I now have to write to my friend. So, dear Molly. But before I could write to dear Molly, I need to indicate the following. I need to leave a line. After I've left that line open, I'm going to leave a line after dear Molly. But now, I need to start this letter. So in my introductory sentence is my reason for the letter. Grade 12, your reason for the letter is derived from your topic. Please do not write your letter and say the reason for my letter. Tell dear Molly, and then you start by telling Molly, I haven't seen you in a very long time. I trust you are well. And then you say, I'm writing this letter to find out whether you will be joining me at my 16th birthday party. That is my introduction. So the format is important. And then immediately after my reason in my first paragraph, I'm going to now, obviously in between my paragraphs, I'm leaving lines. And in the body, I'm going to further on the letter, which contributes to what comes from my topic. And then I leave a line, and I conclude, and then once again I obviously greet and I say, your friend, or niece, or uncle, whatever the case might be, and then you add your name, John. So it's important that you stick to the format. Hence me saying fought. So let us look quickly at a past topic in one of the papers. The topic reads as follows. A close family member who works away from home has stopped visiting at the end of each month. Write a letter to this family member to encourage him or her to visit more often. Now you will see here, I said analyze, format, language. So I'm going to note the following. My topic says a close family member. 1. So this person must be very close to the family. It could be a sister, it could be a cousin, it could be a niece, nephew, whatever the case might be. But this person has moved away from home and stopped visiting. My instruction tells me to write a letter to this particular person to encourage him or her to visit more often. Obviously, when I analyze, I'm going to note those three things. After I've analyzed and I get to my planning and my rough draft, I need to focus on things such as the encouragement. So if I'm going to encourage my family member to visit more often, I need to tell him or her that I miss you. We miss your presence. It wasn't the same at grandma's birthday when you were not present. Those are the things I'm going to utilize to encourage him or her to visit more often and make mention of the fact, since you stopped visiting, we've missed your presence. So it's important that we plan and we use the appropriate language. And when I say appropriate language, especially in the informal letter grade 12, mos is not a word and neither is use. So we write the letter and then you're going to say, I miss use. No, grade 12, those are not words. We do not speak of mos and we do not speak of use. Please pay attention to that, especially in the informal letter. Right? Let's move on to the formal letter. And here things are different. What is different? The types of letters. Obviously, my format remains the same. So let's just get rid of this quickly. And then we look at our types quickly. We have a letter of application, appreciation, complaint, and a letter to the press. Those are just a few. But when we write these, we need to pay special attention to format, once again, language usage. A formal letter requires formal language. So, no contractions may be used. None. Not to stick to your word count. No contractions may be used. No colloquialism or no slang. And focus on your tone. So when I write my formal letter, I'm going to focus on farting. Because that is going to allow me to stick to what I need to do in my formal letter. So the formal letter format is a bit different, right? We still have our address here. But the address here is of the sender, mine, right? And once again, obviously, I'm going to leave a line. Obviously, we need to remember the date. Once I've left open the line, here it comes in who the letter is addressed to. So on the next slide, we see there's two different letters, but the one speaks of write a letter to the municipal manager. So let's say the municipal manager, because that is what the question paper requires you to do. Right? So we note the municipal manager. Right? Now, which municipality? Right? Let's go with George. George municipality. Or wherever you stay. Please now don't go and utilize this and then you don't know how to spell it or you have a problem with it. George municipality, York Road. And we indicate 8700, the postal code. There we go. Now, grade 12, I focus on things such as leaving my line open again. Salutation is important. Dear sir or madam. Dear sir or madam, why? Because I do not know the municipal manager. However, if I do know that Mr. De Bruin is the municipal manager, I could indicate the municipal manager, Mr. De Bruin, or I would just indicate Mr. De Bruin, then the municipal manager, so that here I indicate dear sir. If it's a female, same thing. I would indicate the name, dear madam. But if we do not know, and at that moment we cannot think, let's stick to dear sir or madam. And then I leave a line open. And now I need to provide a subject line. Now when I focus on the subject line, I get it from my topic. So let's look at the topic. It says, the local municipality has shown improvement regarding service delivery. Write a letter to the municipal manager, which we noted here already, expressing your gratitude for these improvements. Refer to specific improvements made in your area. So grade 12, I note who I must address it to. That's the first thing. I've done that. That is in my format. The second part, I need to express gratitude. So it's a letter of appreciation. And then I'm going to refer to specific improvements. Now I need to think to myself, what were the improvements made in the area? They fixed the potholes. They implemented more speed bumps to ensure the safety of the learners, of the kids in the area. They fixed the lampposts because that has been a problem. There are many things that has been fixed in the area, improved. So I mentioned those things. So in my subject line, I'm going to now include what? I'm going to say gratitude towards the local municipality or to George municipality. And I start off my letter expressing my gratitude, but mentioning what they have done. And state things such as the community appreciates the effort of the municipality. It's all you need to do. And then obviously concluding and stating yours faithfully, your name and surname, your signature. Very important, right? There's another topic on a formal letter. So this one is a letter of appreciation and this one is different. Let's look quickly. You recently purchased an item of clothing on sale at a department store. You later discovered that the garment was damaged. The store refuses to exchange the item because it was bought on sale. Write a letter to the manager of the store. Coming back to the manager. So I would now say the store manager. Expressing your dissatisfaction. So the expression of your dissatisfaction becomes my subject line. That's correct. And then obviously with the refusal to exchange the garment. So this becomes my letter of complaint. And in here, I'm going to mention that on this particular date, I bought a garment at your store. And you mention the time, you mention the date, so that the manager is aware of this. And then after that, I'm going to include my dissatisfaction for the fact that I do not want to return or accept the garment and to refund me. It's important that you stick to the topic. Analysis is important. So analyze the topics and plan your pieces. That's all the time we have for today, grade 12. I hope that you will utilize the time properly. Thank you.